think about the kids who are having the most trouble. Think about the kids who are spending the most time outside of the classroom. Think about the kids who you're most worried about. What do they love? And here's some examples: soccer, music, math, a TV show. Like, find a reason to play a soccer clip of somebody scoring an insane goal so that your kid can get really excited about it and experience that excitement with other kids. A sense of wonder is a unifying factor, like something that everybody's really excited about, the science experiment that explodes, you know, like things that you're probably already doing. But a lot of it just requires kind of looking right at the kid who you feel like you're most worried about, and trying to plan something for a time when you know they're going to be in the room. It's their best time. Maybe they just had breakfast, they're the least cranky, and try to plan something that might like really fold them in and help them to make some friendships.
I actually wanted to start with a question that Miriam put in the question and answer, which I think is a question that many of our attendees have. Since we have so many classroom teachers in the audience right now, Miriam's wondering if either of you have advice for where she could go for guidance on actual techniques, classroom-based strategies that she could be using in the classroom when she has students who are maybe having a hard time. Sara, could you get us started?
Yes, of course, and thank you so much for that question, Miriam. As a school psychologist, I would like to say that try to go to your school psychologist first. Sometimes, and if it is the same question that I read on the Q&A, sometimes kids might be manifesting some of those behavioral problems, but we don't really know what the function might be. So there might be something else besides just immigration. So I think it is important to screen them and try to get as much support and rule out other potential issues. Some of the kids might also be experiencing bullying. So I think it will be very important to work with other professionals within your building to try to figure out what could be going on, and why is this child engaging in these behaviors? Of course, we can ask them, but some kiddos, especially little ones, let's just assume that they're having a hard time coping with whatever might be going on, but we might need to provide additional supports to the entire classroom, or the teacher themselves. Some teachers might need some classroom management techniques on how to protect some of our immigrant students. I can't tell you how many times I hear from teachers of saying, I have heard my other students say mean things or bullying some of my immigrant youth, but I don't know what to say, and I just told them stop, but nothing really happens. So I think it's important to bring this up and get other professionals to help you identify the function or the main reason why the child might be engaging in those problem behaviors. And of course, building a strong relationship with those kiddos might facilitate an honest response and answer from them. But I'll stop there.
Jeff, do you have anything to add?
I was going to say, sort of as a different angle, maybe, is trying to think about like what is I think often folks can have the experience of like doing a lot of this work on their own, or at least when you're newer to the work or newer to a system, and trying to think, you want to be attending to obviously all the kids and using all these micro skills, but like, what is the infrastructure in my school to support this? Because it's like sort of thinking about like solving for patterns, where it's like, this challenge is going to happen again and again, unfortunately. How is my school prepared to respond to this? And is the expectation from the school that that's an individual level response? And then what does, again, going through sort of gaming out, like what does success look like for that response? And then it's setting that up and trying to use those experiences to then set yourself up for tools where, okay, when you're in those situations again, so this doesn't answer the what do I do in that moment, but it's like setting yourself up for it. Then the 17th time you don't have to, but you are doing that. And then building systems that are more effective. So like one of the big strategies in mental health equity is building sustainable infrastructure that can support the change of providers or kids that happens.
Super, thank you. I guess along those lines, my next question is for Amanda and then Jeff again. Could we talk a little bit about peers? So what are some things teachers could do to help immigrant students build positive relationships with all of their peers in the classroom? Amanda?
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me. I love this question so much. So what I would recommend is finding something that is a shared fluency, like a common interest with some of your kids. Think about the kids who are having the most trouble. Think about the kids who are spending the most time outside of the classroom. Think about the kids who you're most worried about. What do they love? And here are some examples: soccer, music, math, a TV show. Like, find a reason to play a soccer clip of somebody scoring an insane goal so that your kid can get really excited about it and experience that excitement with other kids. A sense of wonder is a unifying factor, like something that everybody's really excited about, the science experiment that explodes, like things that you're probably already doing. But a lot of it just requires kind of looking right at the kid who you feel like you're most worried about, and trying to plan something for a time when you know they're going to be in the room. It's their best time. Maybe they just had breakfast, they're the least cranky, and try to plan something that might like really fold them in and help them to make some friendships and to get really excited about. One of my kids, he loved flags. And so we hung flags in the atrium of our school. And he was so excited. He would go out and he would look at some of the flags, and then he would like make a coloring book of them, of like the flags from all over the world. It made him feel really proud of his special interests in flags. And it was a really awesome way to kind of fold him in to the culture of the school.
I love that idea of finding their special interests and folding that into your classroom teaching. Jeff, do you have any other suggestions to add to that for peer support?
Yeah, and a lot of it, I thought those are all great suggestions for Amanda. And a lot of it is, again, just connected to that framework, the idea of around those bridging connections. So it's like there may be difference, but then what are those shared points of interest that allow for collaborative learning and excitement and personal narrative around, like, it's much easier to empathize with other once we know their stories, and it's much easier for kids to connect with each other and build bridges, or it's like, oh, you like to play soccer as well, like I like to play soccer as well, or like, oh, your dad doesn't live in the US, like my dad doesn't live in the US either. And so just those types of things. The other sort of really kind of interesting finding in youth mental health is that when kids believe that the connections are genuine connections, they can be particularly valuable, as opposed to something like so like peer mentors. If a kid really feels it's like, oh, this is Jeff, he is like, and I was one of these kids like in 8th grade, like a certified peer mentor. And if it feels too sort of top down, it doesn't mean that it's not effective. It's often that the kid doing it, like the Jeff, gets a treatment effect, like, wow, maybe I should be a psychologist. But for the actual kids, the more that you can foster those genuine organic connections, like Amanda was saying, oh, you have a science experiment, and then kind of like let that happen. Those are probably what's more likely. Again, the certified peer mentor things, those are great. It's just what are the kids that are really benefiting from that, if that makes sense.
Ariana, and I'll be brief, but I'll share an example from my lived experiences as a newcomer immigrant youth back in the days. What we loved the most, and I think that it really helped us build community, was having those potlucks, probably at the end of the semester, and being able, and we had so many wonderful teachers who were willing to get us to destroy their classrooms and bring music from different cultures, and we will share, just like different dances and different foods. Because remember, these youth, they miss their foods, right? They don't get their traditional foods in the cafeteria. So giving them opportunities to bring and share their culture in whatever way they can, and learn that there's differences, but there are also similarities. Like they might find that there might be some dish that has the same kind of like base to make it, even if you feel it looks very different. And so that I remember that really helping us feel that we had a sense of community and understanding. Yes, from yeah.
Yeah, super. I know Amanda and I, the school that we're involved with, does lots of things with food, which is always a great way to bring families in. And I guess along that, Sara, I wanted to ask you, I see a question that Lisa asked that you answered, but I thought it would be helpful to bring up in the webinar itself. She asks if you could talk a little bit about the burden of role reversal on both parents and children's. And this is when parents are often relying on their child for translating. Could you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, definitely. This is a big issue in immigrant families and communities, and it's an issue that definitely leads to a lot of acculturation gaps and a lot of conflict within the families, and families not feeling, or parents feeling like they lose their power or their authority as parents, right? Because now they have to rely on their children to let them know what's going on. And sometimes I think it's very important. And I worked, with many immigrant parents as well. And I always advise parents that if it is a medical bill or something, or a medical, something that a letter or financial, that it's probably best, also to decrease the child's potential anxiety for just feeling that knowing what additional stressors their parents have, that it might be best to try to find someone else to do those translations. So it's important, I think, for schools, and this is why I was mentioning in my presentation, finding resources within your community, right? That there might be, I know in my local community there is an interfaith. I'm trying to remember right now the full title, but it's an interfaith community that provides supports to immigrants and provides supports, and that will be, and it's full of college students who are volunteering. So that will be a perfect place to kind of just say, can I, take your letters there, so that your child doesn't get that additional pressure. And we've seen that as the youth acculturate fast, not only there's the risk of anxiety, but there also could be the risk of them feeling that they now have more authority and they now have more power than their parents to be able to navigate the US culture. So it is important for parents to maintain, that authority so that they can still give the children that feeling of safety, right? Because sometimes we forget that parenting is about and having discipline is not about being the mean parent, but it's about providing those boundaries and those limits that allow us to feel safe. And if that goes out the window, then the youth might also be at risk for more problem behaviors later on. So it's a real issue. It happens, and it's unfortunate, but let's try to find parents some resources so that they can find alternatives.
I have an answer to that too, Ariana.
Super. I was
Because I've
just going to
seen,
ask you.
yeah, I've seen this in real time, right? I've seen a teacher pull a kid along and say, tell your mom what you did today. And then you have this dynamic, right, where the kid's not going to talk about what they did today. Like, or maybe they will, but they're not going to quite say, exactly what's going on. So we actually, through technology, we have a lot more tools. Like, we're not as helpless as we might think. And so I just want to draw your attention to a few things. In Google, if you're looking at those little three dots at the top of the page, you can click on that and you can go down to translate page. Parents in emails, if you're sending them emails, they have the skills to translate those emails. Most of our parents are translating our email. I tell my teachers, I say, if you're sending an email because you need to communicate something to a parent, write it in short sentences with as simple language as possible. And then you can run it through Google Translate, or they can run it through Google Translate. You can follow up with another email that says, did that make sense? If like the language skills are not anything that falls within your wheelhouse, do your best to send it to them in the language that they're going to understand, and then involve your administrative team and ask them for the resources. I know I'm saying this to public school to teachers, and you guys are like, we are the resources, like we are the ones. But unless we're kind of like raising, the flag of how much help we need to support our families, our administrators are never going to know. So unless we're letting our administrators know how often we're using a translation service, or like, hey, this family just really doesn't understand special education and they need to be evaluated, but I gave them the form and the form doesn't make sense because it's in very formal English that you can't run through Google Translate, unless you are raising the alarm to tell your administrative team what you need. And this is the hill that I will actually die on because it came up so often during COVID. Like I have been telling the administrators, like, translate these forms forever. So join me. Hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that answered.
Thank you so much. I know we only have a few minutes, so I wanted to turn this over to Jeff. I see a few questions here, which we always get, which is, do you have any suggestions for talking about parents and families, especially when there's maybe cultural differences as to how people view mental illnesses and things like that?
Yeah, I think in our program, which I didn't get to talk more about, the trauma systems therapy for refugees, this is a multi-tiered public health intervention program that we've disseminated to lots of different schools and community centers and clinics in the United States. One of the key elements of that program is partnering with cultural brokers or community and cultural experts to co-deliver services. And so what I would say, the best way to think about it at a systems levels, the way that you can build trust or build engagement is through partnerships with potentially trusted messengers or folks who have the capacity to become a trusted messenger. And so thinking about delivering services or co-delivering services with someone who's a member of the community. And if you say, well, my school doesn't have anyone from the community, then that's the place to focus. It's like, why don't we have someone from the community who works at our school? We're serving 75% of kids who speak this language and no one at the school speaks that language. Then that's the full stop, all the money, figure that thing out, because everything else will be improved when you can bring someone who has the expertise that you need. They may not have a degree, they may not have the whatever, but if they have the potential for that skill set and then you can support them and supervise them, then you're likely to, again, solve for that pattern.
We have about 1 or 2 more minutes left. So I wanted to end by asking all three of you if you have any final words of advice, calls to action, something that you would like to leave us with that we can take with us when we all go back to our work in our classrooms. Let's go, Jeff, Amanda, Sara.
Yeah, I would say continuing to, again, maybe this is my theme for today, is just like continue to think about the infrastructure, thinking about the patterns, thinking about how can I solve this for the kids who are coming next year and 3 years and the staff who are going to be hired in 3 years who can inherit a system that hopefully is more effective and more equitable and can serve the kids and families we're trying to help.
And I would just say that you guys you're doing this. You're doing this. Settle in. It takes time. We need to build trust with our families. A lot of times we just need to find people who are the linchpin, who's like, this is the person. I have several parents who are the people who know everybody in the Portuguese-speaking Brazilian family community. And we need to find the people who we can lean in. We need to remember they're a political system. We need to figure out kind of how to advocate best for our students. And there will be years when you're just going to be overwhelmed, head underwater, and that's okay too. As long as you keep making it back, to keep coming back to do the work, everything that you're practicing is gonna keep coming back. So we need educators so badly. We need culturally responsive educators so badly. Please tend to your roots. Find the people who are doing the work. That takes time. Stay. Please stay.
I echo that. Please stay, and thank you so much for the work that you do with the youth. Know that it is making a difference. You're making a difference, and every time you're feeling like things are just overwhelming, just remind yourself the reason why you wanted to do this work. Remember that you have to also be resilient to be able to promote that resiliency in the youth that you're working with. So take care of yourself. Look for community. It shouldn't be just the ELL teacher by themselves trying to support the community. Look for community. The community might not be within your building, but it's out there because many of us care. Many of us have gone through that situation and we want to support whoever is going through that. So just the one word, resilience. We are resilient. We will get through this, and we can only do it if we see it from a community-based lens. So stay strong and sí se puede.
Sara, Amanda, and Jeff, thank you so much for coming, taking the time to share your expertise, your research, your work. We truly appreciate it. I'd also like to thank everyone who tuned in for taking the time. What you're doing is also just so important. We really appreciate all of you for taking the time. We hope to see you next month in our next webinar. And with that, thank you all so much. We will see you next time.